It was a must-win, and New York City got it tonight at Yankee Stadium. A special NYCFC Views Live. I'm Glenn Crooks, along with Roberto Abramowitz. We're going to go over it in a moment.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy.
Tiene tiro y gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
It always feels better to win. I'm Glenn Crooks, Roberto Abramowitz. We just finished calling the game. Roberto on the Spanish side of the New York City FC network, myself on the English side. And we got to call a couple of goals tonight as New York City defeated CF Montreal 2-0. Andres Jason at the half-hour mark, Monsef Bakrar at the 37-minute mark for both their second goal, all competitions in their career for New York City FC. Roberto, welcome. Look, it's and a good chance to do this live. Maybe people on their way home, whether it's on their commute or however they're transporting themselves from Yankee Stadium back to their abodes, perhaps watching this, or those who didn't make it out to the stadium, hopefully listen to us. And then while they were watching Apple, I heard there was some Apple TV difficulties on the pronunciation of Andres Jason, and what was the other thing? There were two things that came out. That it was the first time that the New York City wore their parks kits, their green kits. So those are
it's not the first time; it's the second time they've worn
I'm
it.
saying this is what was said on the Apple broadcast. You're texting and doing things and not even listening to me.
Well, because I'm trying to tell people that we're on live on Twitter.
All right, go ahead.
You think
I know
you
it
want
wasn't
that, right?
I'm saying there were. I saw on Twitter there were issues with the Apple broadcast, just on informational things. That's okay. Look, hey,
we love our guys from Apple.
We
by
do.
The way. They're very cool.
We
got
do.
to
But you
see
should
them during the game.
Yeah, but a lot of people did the drop down and listen to the English commentary, and the whole
can't do that in Spanish.
They can't do it in Spanish. Should be able to. It's not happening yet. It should be home and away. Hasn't happened yet, but I guess we have to give them time to figure out. But let's stick with the game. And what were your first impressions? What's your first reaction if I say, all right, what about this game? What do you think?
It was a absolute professional win. They went about their business. They got the job done. It was interesting to see the strategy that New York City had, and the fact that, for instance, Andres Jason was such a focal point of the strategy, or maybe it was because of the way that Montreal was defending Jason. But a lot of the good things that happened in this game started on that side, and they were looking for him quite a bit. There was a beautiful 7-pass sequence that ended with Jason's goal. It could have been 11, except that Perea lost the ball and then got it back, and then they started again coming out of their own end. And so they went end to end, 7 passes and a nice dribble, beautiful cut on the inside. I don't think that they were expecting that. And then the shot with the left foot to the far post.
Well, that was
absolutely stunning.
The left-footed shot. No, it was wonderful. Well, here's and I want to talk about. Did you know that Sporting KC had a 38-pass sequence for a goal they scored?
Okay.
Oh, we're back on. Okay. So sorry for the technical glitch. Yeah, well, this is the, sometimes the issues when you do it live. But we're back with you. It's just a brief pause. We talked about Jason and Bakrar scoring the goals. And the English commentary, which was available on the Apple TV drop-down. This is how it sounded. Andres Jason's second career goal. Let's hear it, Sammy.
This ball as he drives across field to find Ledesma. Now the combination between Ledesma and Coufray. Maxi Morales shows in a half space, and he leaves it for Ledesma, who finds Andres Jason with a lot of freedom on the right. He's in the penalty area. To his left, curls it for a goal! And there's the opening goal! On a Wednesday night in a must-win situation for New York City FC, and it's Andres Jason. His second career goal, both coming in 2023. And New York City, off some wonderful ball movement and a tremendous finish with the left by Andres Jason.
Well, what a move this is. It starts off in NYCFC's own penalty area and ends up in the back of Montreal's net. The interchange of play between Ledesma, Maxi Morales and Coufray is exquisite. And the right-footed pass from Coufray just absolutely arrowed across to Andres Jason. And the belief in his ability here, Andres Jason, as he just cuts inside Corbo onto his weaker left foot and curls it into the far corner. It's as though he does it all day. He does it every day of the week in training. I guarantee he doesn't. He doesn't do it in games very often, but this is magnificent from Jason.
All right. So, and I gave Ledesma the assist in my call, but that was Brian Coufray who, as Maddie described it, arrowed the ball across to Jason. But impressive. Left-footed, curled it. I mean, that's as good a finish as you can find.
And not only that, as good a build-up as you can find. I mean, that was absolutely awesome. The way the team just came out of a high-pressure situation, because Montreal, as Hernando Sala likes to do, was pressing high. Perea lost the ball, got it back, and then they started the sequence again. And New York City just calmly got the ball out of their penalty area, moved it up the left side, switched the ball to the right, found Jason, and then Jason did his thing, and it was a great goal. Second goal for Andres Jason. And so now the homegrowns have 3. They would have had 4, except for that game against Atlas, and they took the goal away.
No. Well, and it ended a streak of 300, and we had calculated 324 minutes without scoring a goal. It seemed longer.
Yeah, I really did.
Doing the commentary.
Meanwhile, Montreal hasn't scored against New York in over 3 games and change. The last time they scored was in that 4-1 win that New York City had at Citi Field 2 years ago. That was the last time they scored. That was a Mihailovic goal.
They're an interesting team. So what? They've had 3 3-game losing streaks. They'd had a 4-game win streak. If they had won tonight, it would have been another 4-game win streak. It's crazy. They've been shut out in 13 of their 26 games. That's crazy.
But what's crazy is the huge difference between home and away. That's where this gets crazy. So, for instance, let me see. I had it here someplace. I'll get to it in a second. But Montreal has been horrific away, and they've been very, very good at home. So,
yeah. Well, here's the record. I've got it here. They're 2-10-2 now on the road, and 9-3 at home. New York City improves to 5-3-4 at home, which is not a particularly and certainly for them, that's not a good home mark. It's almost exclusively been better than that since the opening year, in fact, but 1-7-7 on the road for New York City. That's why these home games are so important. They've struggled more on the road than Montreal has.
Yes, they have, because now they only have 1 goal. I mean, rather, own victory on the road, and it was at Montreal, which, by the way, was the last shutout for New York City, was against Montreal as well.
And who gets the clean sheet tonight? Matt Freese. So you've got this back and forth goalkeeping situation. There's no clear number 1, that's for sure, unless Matt Freese wins the battle tonight and they give him the rest of the games. I thought whoever they started at the commencement of the break
was going to go.
But 2-0 to Minnesota, 3-0 to Cincinnati. But you can hardly blame Barraza.
I couldn't blame him for any of the goals that he allowed against Minnesota and against Cincinnati. Ariel Judas, my partner in the Spanish broadcast believed that the third goal, which is that long shot that went into the upper corner, that he had a shot at that one, and I disagree.
Okay.
But he thinks that one he could have done better on. I just have no idea how he could have gotten there.
And you could see that Montreal, now whether they would have pressed as high and put as much pressure on Freeze as they did, if Barraza was in goal, it's hard to say. That's the one, well, I don't want to say liability, but tonight Freeze was, I wouldn't call him comfortable with his feet. I wouldn't use that word, but he didn't get into any real issues with his feet. So
here's the difference in the game for me. Okay.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. So Montreal had like two really good opportunities to score, and they have the same problem that New York City has, especially with Romel Kyoto out for the rest of the year with a hamstring pull. So he's done. So they haven't been able to score. They sent Kai Kamara away earlier in the season, and boy, they could really use him. He's not around, and so they can't score. So they had like 2 or 3 chances. There was one point where there were 3 guys running into the 6, and the ball was just behind them, and they weren't able to score. That would have been 1-1 at that point, or it was on the other side of the field. I mean, they had chances, they just didn't finish them. Yeah. They had chances and they just didn't finish them. So here's something that I wanted to talk about too, about Montreal. So they've scored in their 5 road matches, in their previous 5 road matches, they've had as many goals as they scored in Toronto, which was a 3-2 win. That's how bad they have been on the road.
All right.
And they've been unstoppable at home, because at home they have 8 shutouts. And away from home, they continue to allow goals. So this was now the 10th time this season where they've allowed 2 or more goals in an away game. And yet at home, they have 8 shutouts. And New York City broke that streak with that 1-0 victory with a Pellegrini goal.
And the other thing you see with Montreal, Roberto, and those are stark statistics. And Hernan Losada had similar issues at DC United home and away. Mm-hmm. But only 2 draws all year, so they either win or lose. So but the other thing is Montreal against New York City, 19 times they've played all competitions, and New York City's only lost twice.
Yeah,
and they've won now 5 of the last 6 meetings, including that 3-1 playoff win last year.
They are a sight for sore eyes. They really are. And by the way, I sent Sammy a picture that I was able to take tonight. If we can put that up, because this is let's see. So this is what I took tonight of the beautiful blue moon, and it is a once in a blue moon victory.
Very nice.
The way it's going. Yeah. I mean, the last win that New York City had, forgetting the Toronto game, was what was it? July 1st against Montreal, and before that, you have to go all the way back to April 22nd at Citi Field when they beat Dallas 3-1. I mean, this is only the 6th victory of the season. But okay, we'll look at that point. Once you start looking at the standings, you know, New York City is within 3 points now of Chicago. 9th place. Yeah. Now Chicago,
there's games in hand. All the teams ahead of them, I think, still have at least a game in hand.
Oh, Chicago's still losing, and that game is in the 90th minute. That is in the 90th minute, and it's still 1-0. While only 9,187 in Soldier Field. Ouch.
Wednesday night is rough in MLS. You don't see. How about Houston about to beat Columbus, and they've really surprised. But the game that I'm sure most people were watching on Apple TV tonight. I don't know if New York City supporters had 2 TVs going or how they handled it. Inter Miami playing host to Nashville, and Lionel Messi, Sergi Busquets, and Jordi Alba still have not lost a game, but. They didn't win this one.
They did not win.
They'd won the previous 9. So this is a 0-0 draw against Nashville, a good team. So
Nashville played very well defensively. That, for what I heard, I have friends of mine who were like watching the game and just like giving me updates through the whole. Obviously Argentinian, by the way. I just wanted you to know.
How about
my good friends Carlos and Andrew Sarate.
Nice.
So yes, they were keeping tabs on that. Not listening to my broadcast, but watching that. So
well, I'm sure.
Chris Pensa was the ref, by the way.
We were. Was he? Okay.
Yeah, who was our ref? Who was the ref for our game last week?
Cincinnati. Yeah. So the game that really Atlanta's up 1-0 at home against Cincinnati for 80 minutes, and then Cincinnati scores twice, and they clinched a playoff berth. Cincinnati needed to beat Atlanta to clinch the playoffs. It's the second earliest playoff clinching in MLS history. So Cincinnati, they're running away with the supporter shield, and I think it's clear cut that they're going to get that. And what a season for them. And we saw it close up on Wednesday. I think one of the ways it was described, over the weekend, one of the ways it was described to me is there were a lot of men out there playing soccer, and they're led by Matt Miazga at the back, I guess, if you're looking for that. So after every game, there's a post-game presser, and Chris Sakonis, who you see his head between ours behind there. There's a nice wave from Chris. He helps on the English side of the broadcast. I'm looking at quotes. And
I don't know how you can see that. Here's a little trick I'm going to. What
are you doing? Oh, wow. How'd you do that? Oh, God. I don't know how to do anything. But here's Nick on Andres Jason goal. He said it was his first goal at Yankee Stadium. We just congratulated him in the dressing room. And I think, those moments are really important because as a group that is really together and as a group that really believes in each other on a night, we win, and one of our own gets his first goal at Yankee Stadium. It was a really important moment to celebrate. They're talking about he's homegrown. These guys growing up around Yankee Stadium, watching New York City games before they even joined the academy. And then next from Nick, Roberto, and bounce off any of these you want, on building off of the win. Again, this is Nick Cushing, who, look, Nick Cushing is not embattled, meaning there's not a sense that he was, even before this game, in trouble. I think it's the end of the season, and then the assessment occurs. But, the tension, and it rises. I mean, when you're the head coach, when you're the man and your team's not winning, it's tough. So here's what he said on building off the win. I think one thing this season has taught us that maybe performance isn't enough. Maybe tactics and shape and the ability to play a style isn't enough, because we've had so many games like Minnesota, like Charlotte, where we dominate the ball, energy high. I've sat here so many times and said, I thought we deserved more. Now we're in a headspace where we've just got to go and take it. And we're going to suffer a little bit like we did today in moments. And we're going to need everybody, and we're going to have to roll with the punches at times. All this does is give us an opportunity to get 2 wins back to back, which is talking about Vancouver on Saturday.
So in my pregame live that I do at 6:00 on the Spanish side, and it's on NYCFC Espanol and Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it these days, and on my Facebook page, Roberto Abramowitz Oficial. So we have it there, and Ariel and I, we do what you do, half an hour. Ours is 90 minutes before the game. And one of the questions we got from the audience was about if Nick Cushing was in trouble. And I keep on trying to explain to people that he's really not, and nor should he be. And I know all the talk about Cushing out, and there was a banner that was there in the stands and with the supporter section. And we watch, we read the groups, and we're members of New York City supporters and what do you call on Facebook, and the other group as well. And we see what the fans are writing and all that. And
you'll continue, but he reads it too.
Yeah.
And, he's admittedly, he likes to see what people are thinking. He sees it and he responds to it. But go ahead.
So here's my point is this. I think if you look at Nick, I'm not saying that he's blameless for anything, but I don't think he's any more to blame than anything else. And I would actually say that he's a lot less to blame than a lot of other things. This is a team that hasn't had a number 9 all season long. It's hard to win in MLS when you don't have a number 9. It's hard to win on a team where you took the best number 9 in the league, arguably, in Valentin Tati Castellanos, and you wind up selling him, and you don't really replace him. At least last year, you had Eber, and Eber could fill in and do a really good job, I thought, especially, as he was coming in back to his own, being physically 100% from a really massive injury that he suffered in the Chicago game in Red Bull Arena. And so
Eber misses New York City, by the way, just for the record.
So when I look at the team, and they brought in Moussef Bakrar. Moussef Bakrar is the type of player that is a project. Moussef Bakrar is a player that needs to play behind a really good veteran number 9 that is going to be your starter and that he can learn the ropes. He scored 8 goals in 38 games in Croatia. That is not a fantastic number. But they obviously feel that he has a lot of talent and that they're going to be able to get a lot of talent and a lot of goals and a lot of positive plays out of him. I think that they understand that the same way that they were able to do that with Tati, that they're going to be able to try to do something that they can fine-tune his game where he's going to be a hell of a lot more effective. But he needs to do that behind a guy who is there and doing it already. And New York City has not had this all year long. And New York City cut the budget on players for this year, and that's not something that they plan to do. They were told that that's what they have to do, so the budget is less. And so when those things all get together, right, the coach doesn't have the exact same team that they had last year. He didn't come close, actually.
Well, not nearly the same
not
team.
Close.
No.
And so for everybody to blame Nick Cushing for everything that's going on, and that they feel that somehow by pushing out Nick Cushing and by pushing out David Lee that they're going to solve the problems of this team, they're absolutely wrong. They're not the problem. They weren't the problem. Okay? They're not. So if New York City wants to get back to the New York City of the past 3 or 4 years, they're going to have to spend more on players, and they're going to have to get players that are going to be able to get in here and contribute and right off the bat. And until that happens, maybe Bakrar is going to turn into something a hell of a lot better, a lot quicker than most of us thought. We hope so, for the New York City sake. And can they make a run and make it into the playoffs? And then who knows what's going to happen? Let's see. But this is an incomplete team. It's been an incomplete team all year.
Well, one thing Nick Cushing said, I do this exclusive pregame with him before every match, which you should tune to. You should listen to the things Roberto does and follow him. You could follow me, but this Nick Cushing pregame, which is on the New York City FC network, I sense that not everybody listens to it, and I would like you to, because you learn things from these interviews. I try to put up as many clips as I can, but sometimes I can't get everything up. But he made an interesting observation about Bakrar, and he talked more about the future. He said he's going to be a very good goal scorer in the future. That's the way they see it. And here's what he said tonight about Bakrar. Ultimately, Monsef is going to score goals. I think we're disappointed when he missed his chances against Minnesota, but I say to him, the best 9s, they just move on from missing chances, and then they put the next one in. I'm delighted he scored tonight because he was frustrated after Minnesota. But the player that really I enjoyed watching more than any other tonight for New York City FC, yes, Andres Jason was the player of the match, and I don't argue that at all, because game-winning goal, beautiful finish. I think he worked hard the whole game. He drew fouls the way he does in important situations. But Andres Pereira in the midfield, that's an excellent acquisition. When you talk about transfers, and Burke Reese is another one you could talk about, but you win and lose games in the midfield. Whether you play through the midfield or not, how someone who can put in the mileage and has the quality on both sides of the ball as Pereira, I'm really impressed with him. And the fact that James Sands couldn't go tonight because of the hamstring, I think really pointed towards Pereira even more. He could play alone in the 6. He could play the 8. He could probably play the 10. I mean, he is a versatile midfielder. And Sands, by the way, saw him on the way in, and he said he'll be good to go for the weekend. The hamstring.
I mean, you don't have to rush him now, right? I mean, if you really make sure that you have everybody healthy for the stretch run, and New York City has 7 games to go, you need everybody healthy.
Good point.
So,
he said he's not going to go unless he's 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's close to it. He said.
So
anyway.
I was excited to see Pereira as well. I thought that he had a really solid game. But the other guy who, when he came in, and I'm starting to get like giggly with him a little bit, is Julian Fernandez. Julian Fernandez, I mean, he had one run into the box where he just beat everybody. And the only thing, it was a great save by Sirois. Sirois made a fantastic save.
No, I wouldn't. Don't call it fantastic, Roberto. He stood in the middle of the goal and the shot. I'm saying no. I'm just saying it wasn't a fantastic save.
Okay,
it was a good save.
All right,
it's a good save. But you can't call it fantastic or top flight or he was in the middle of the goal. But what Fernandez did leading up to it, and you know what, his shot was on frame. I think it was a fine shot. It was a good shot.
I'll agree with you. I'll agree. I went a little bit over.
But Fernandez, I wonder if Fernandez was trying to go, 5-hole. I was wondering if he was trying to go between his legs because did he purposely hit it up the middle? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he did because I don't think he had an angle to go far post, and I think because of how tight it was, and I thought that he tried to go under his legs. And look, Sidois is a really good goalie, and he's had a fantastic season, but. New York City has his number too.
Yeah, for sure. 3-0 in the regular play this year for total. If you're going to go aggregate, New York City has beaten Montreal 3-0 in the season series. But Montreal, they are still above the playoff line in 8th place. So
they have 35. They have 35 points.
So let me just open it up. 35, which puts them in 8th. Chicago's on 32, so that game is over. So they have lost. And then it's DC United in 10th place with 30. Charlotte in 11th place, also with 30 points. Then it's the New York Red Bulls on 29 and New York City on 29. And wouldn't you know it, September 16th, you'll have the international break. But the return game for the international break is the Hudson River Derby. And that's a massive points match. That's a 6-point game, obviously.
Yes,
it's one of those that will be something to look forward to. But first, you got to do well.
A lot of the teams that are ahead of them are on the schedule. DC's on the schedule.
Yep.
Chicago is decision day on the schedule. And the Red Bulls, they're on the schedule.
And so is Miami on September the 30th.
So is Miami. Those aren't ahead. Those are behind. But
but that's at Miami. So
right at Miami. But you're looking in the rearview mirror there. Look, Nashville went to Miami and got out of there 0-0.
So that's just about going to do it for us. Here's what happens: is they actually they close down the press area 90 minutes after the final whistle, and we're approaching that border of somebody coming in here with a sledgehammer to get us out of the booth. But I would say I'm looking forward to Vancouver. You don't necessarily see a lot of them unless you stay up late and watch your Apple TV. But I do know they have their co-leading goal scorer is a kid from just down the road. He played at PDA. I got to know him a little bit, Brian White, and he Red Bull Academy guy, then signed a first-team contract with the Red Bulls. I was kind of surprised that they moved him for like $400,000 in GAM out to Vancouver, and for Vancouver, along with Ryan Gold, that's a very difficult combination that New York City will have to defend well in order to be successful against Vancouver.
And not only that, I love Ryan Gold. Ryan Gold is just such a fantastic player.
Yeah.
And again, we don't get to see him much because of the time difference and all that. Brian White has been fantastic. But remember, they let Julian Gressel go because they knew that they were signing Richie Larea. And Richie Larea always gives New York City fits. When he was with Toronto, he gave them absolute fits. So he's there, and I like their goalie, Yohei Takaoka. He's been playing very, very well for them. So they're going to be fun. They're a fun team to watch. And New York City can't take them lightly. New York City can't take anybody lightly, and they desperately need the 3 points. New York City seriously needs 15 points out of these 5 games at home.
Right. So it's just it's one win, and that's where Nick Cushing said post-game. It's like now it's try for back-to-back wins, and that'll be Saturday. Our airtime on the New York City FC Network, Spanish and English, will be 3:15 Eastern time, and then kickoff is 3:39. And again, if you're watching on Apple, you can do the drop down. If you don't have the drop down for English, or if you don't have it, since it's not in Spanish, just sync it up. It's not that difficult. I just yell at everybody every time.
You just
sync it up, man. You freeze it at kickoff. Wait for the audio to catch up.
No. The audio is ahead. Our audio is ahead of the.
No, it's not ahead.
Oh, yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Oh, absolutely. Our audio is 100% ahead.
Oh, we've got 90 seconds. We just got a note from, like we said, there was no sledgehammer, but we did get a note. So that's going to do it for us. So a special NYCFC Views live, thanks to Sammy for being up late to make this thing happen. So for Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks. Good night for New York City. 2-0 goals by Jason and Bakrar to get on the right track. We'll talk to you again soon.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.